Stay curious, rethink learning,
Quote I
embrace
read
tech as a
shortly after
tool
the
for growth and
transition. I think
understanding.
the mindset should always be that we should remain kids in that respect. As we get older, we're like, oh, you have to be mature, you have to be responsible. But that doesn't have to be at the detriment of being curious and wanting to learn things. We're told to live, as we get older, we have like this sequence of things in life that we're supposed to do. And I personally don't like it. I don't like to follow that thing. For me, I want to live life on my own terms. I think that we should keep that kind of young childhood mindset of, having unbounded curiosity, asking stupid questions. Like, I actually love when people ask stupid questions because they're rarely stupid questions, actually. So I think the education system, our approach to parenting, all of these things should try to nurture, for as long as humanly possible, these questions and these curiosities in children and even in adults. And we should be encouraged to do that.
From your point of view, what should the purpose of college university be? Should it be like help you find a job, teach how to socialize, teach how to think? Like, what should be the purpose of university or college?
Great question. For me, I think the purpose of learning is to develop critical thinking skills, to be able to think for yourself, learning how to learn and unlearn in certain cases. And for me, I think what college was useful for was also to discover who I thought I could be and who I did not want to be. Often in life, we're told to find role models, which I think is very important. But I also think we should try to identify folks or lifestyles that we also don't want to have. Sometimes it's easier to know what you don't want than it is to know what you want. And so I think for me, college helped with that, for me to understand who I am, who I want to be, who I aspire to be, and who I definitely don't want to be. At the same time, developing those critical thinking skills. And of course, I think I also speak from a position of privilege where I didn't have $200,000 of college debt. I was fortunate that I could have help from my parents to sponsor that and support me in that regard. So yes, if for some folks, if we're looking at, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you have to make sure that obviously college can pay the bills and that you can actually, live and, not live under a bridge. So that's, meeting the initial needs. But then at a more higher level, I would say it's all the other things that I mentioned before that.
You think that time will ever come where, YouTube University, for lack of a better term, replaces college?
I mean, I think in many ways it kind of has, in a way. I mean, if any, I don't think I've had any college course where I didn't have to use YouTube videos in general. So I think technology is here to complement and not to replace. I think most pure technology folks are always under the impression that technology will replace humans for various different things. I've always taken the approach that we should work together and that together we will unlock synergy or we will better ourselves. So for me, I think technology will not take over the place of universities. I think just the role of universities themselves will evolve from being places of knowledge to places of the application of knowledge and where you then go practice these skills before you enter the real world. And even, okay, I mean, I didn't graduate that long ago, but even then it was still very much about knowledge and memorization and knowing things. But now that information is unlimited, basically, and that AI can now answer almost any question that we might have, now it's really, okay, how do we use this knowledge in ways that are going to be beneficial both for our careers, but for humanity as a whole? And so I think the role of universities will change in that regard. And that's kind of the discussion that we had at RMIT a couple of months back, where, what is the role of AI in higher education? And the consensus generally was that we're going to continue working together. It is not going to replace colleges or universities, just both are going to have to evolve.
So next, talk about AI. Do you think AI is going to be a positive or negative in the field of education?
I mean, I think overall, just like the calculator, it will be a net positive, but like anything, it's how you use it. Any new technology is always about the application rather than the underlying technology itself. So I think for us, or at least our view of this, is that AI is here to help again, but not to replace. And I am personally not pro AI replacing teachers and things like that. That's definitely not my stance. But at the same time, I don't know what the future holds. You know, I like to quote Dune, where Frank Herbert's view was that, you know, at some point in the future, this was 10,000 years in the future, humans, and he called them thinking machines, go to war, whatever, kind of Terminator style. But the main conclusion from that story is that humans realized that technology or AI could only take us so far. The more important thing was how would us as humans improve ourselves and become better versions of ourselves using technology. And I think that is likely the future that we're headed to, hopefully.
So what's your take on this? Let's suppose the 8th grade student in a similar world. They have to report, I don't know, like space rocks on Mars, whatever. Do you think, you know, they should be allowed to use ChatGPT? Do they have to like do all the research to own? What's your take on that, those kind of things?
I think they should. I think so. This is a very similar way to how we approach interviews. So in our interview process, for example, we usually do 2 formal interviews, and then we do what was called a performance task. And in a performance task, we ask a candidate to actually do something that they would do on the real job. And I think, using your example, I think kids should be taught how to use the tools safely and properly. But the reality is that we live in a world where these tools exist. So restricting them is not going to help.
They're going to use them.
They're going to use them.
It just might, are they smart enough to cover it up? You know?
Correct. And I don't think, and the test should not be, can they cover it up?